I looked at where I was now, like, if my 12-year-old or 18-year-old self knew where I'd be now, would that have been enough light at the end of the tunnel? I guess to get back down to it, I had severe social anxiety starting when I was 12. And Justin was kind of my savior. When I was around him, I had such level of confidence. So I guess the thing to get about the Justin breakup is I lost my savior boyfriend and had to deal with the depression I'd been facing, but it was such a deeper depression because before, a lot of my dark feelings would inspire me to write fiction, but now I just had nothing. I went to this creative writing class. My professor said, your characters aren't interesting, nothing you're writing is interesting. I mean, he was just, and I'd just be like, yeah, I know. And I really am like, did I lose it? Did I lose my spark? So I'm like, I'm going to test him. I'm going to bring this. I took out that notebook, and I took the scene where 4-year-old Holly meets Philip, and I typed that up and I brought that to class. And right away his tune changed. He's like, Philip's interesting, Holly's boring, but you've got something here. And every draft I wrote was like, it was making it worse. It was making it more boring. And I'm like, why does everything I touch right now turn out boring? I eventually gave up on writing fiction. I'm like, fiction writing may be fun when you're young, but it involves so many components of writing. And it just was easier to write essays. I graduated. My social anxiety kind of kept me away from doing much of what I wanted to do. Years went by. I decided to take part in a study about trauma that was related to a traumatic event I had gone through when I was young. The interview process, it just kind of opened the wound up and then left it open. I know I was in my car and I just started crying and weeping and talking to God about it, and because I realized I started making connections, and they may not even have been real connections, but I was just like, what if this one event is part of the reason I have such severe social anxiety? It made me really awkward and around my peers, and just my coping mechanisms led to bullying, and which led to more fear and this social anxiety that I can't seem to get away from. And I was mad about it, and I was just like, God, why would you let one event affect me for so long? And I found my reasons for living, but there was always this aspect of, everyone was telling me, just look for the light at the end of the tunnel, look for the light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm like, I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I found all these little momentary hopes that fizzled out. I looked at where I was now after all these years. Let's see, how old was I? I was in my 30s. And I'm like, if my 12-year-old or 18-year-old self knew where I'd be now, knew what progress I made and what progress I hadn't made, would that have been enough light at the end of the tunnel for her to keep going? Or would she have been just wanting to throw up her arms and say, this is ridiculous? No, this would discourage her. She wouldn't be happy with that answer. And this isn't an answer I would want to give her, because I don't think it's an answer she could have handled. I asked myself, like, what is it that I've learned throughout all these years that keeps me going? Then I'm like, I gotta write a story out of that. And suddenly I started thinking about Holly's character, which became Allison. She suffered this traumatic drowning experience when she's 12. That wouldn't affect her through amnesia. What if she was so afraid of water that that her coping mechanism was to avoid showers? Like, she occasionally took showers, but she was like greasy all the time and smelled. I mean, she's going through puberty, and kids in middle school are like really mean. And what does that do? And her parents have died, and she believes that it's her father who nearly drowned her. And what if she had social anxiety like me? Like, what if she was as socially phobic as I am? And what if I wrote the book around the lesson that had taken me years and years to learn? How can I get this character to reach the arc that had taken me years in happening all in one summer? How can I give her the will to live? And what I say is walking in the unseen light. And I think I successfully got her character to do that arc. It's scary to do that, because that's so personal. And I'm like, you can't, like, one of the biggest mistakes you can make in writing is make your character yourself. And because you don't know your own eccentricities. And like, that was the lesson my professor said, like, you need to, like, when he was talking in college about character development, is like, you got to get out of your own head and think and be able to think in the mind of another character. And so I had to make sure, I had to really develop her character, because I needed to be able to distinguish her from myself. I always had this idea of there's something different than what's going on in Allison's perspective with other characters. So that was interesting to develop. I just started thinking, like, how is each character dealing with their own trauma, and how does it come out? Well, I wrote 9 chapters of the story, and I kept editing it, and then they'd give me a critique, and then I'm like, okay, I got a way to solve it. I'll rewrite it. What do you think now? And then they'd be like, I don't want to read it again. And I'm like, I gotta stop doing this to, like, my family members. I ended up going on a website that doesn't exist anymore called Autonomy, that was actually run by a publishing house. And what people would do is they would post opening chapters of their book, to try to have it was kind of the slush pile for competing for publication. And I'm like, I'm not wanting the publishing house to see this. I just want these other authors reading my work and telling me what I'm doing wrong and what I can fix. And so I just started asking people, going to, like, trading reads. Will you read? I'll critique your work. You critique mine. Give me an honest assessment. They were very good at telling me what was wrong. They weren't very good at telling me how to fix it, what I needed to do. What I ended up doing was I had a copy of Stein on Writing. He was a professional editor. I had gotten that book, like, I think I actually purchased it before Justin broke up with me. I just looked at, like, what were the criticisms people gave in my writing? And then I looked in the book, like, how do I fix that? So ignore what the other authors are saying. Look at what this editor is saying in this book. And so I started taking some of the techniques. I started looking for my weak points through the critiques, and then reading the sections I needed to in this book. And I kept fixing these 9 chapters. And then, and no one, like usual, no one wants to reread your 2nd, 3rd, 4th draft. They're willing to critique it once. So I found someone, we traded reads, and she said, I've put down the red pen. I've just enjoyed this, and you need to get this published. And And she's like, I don't understand why this book isn't more popular on here. And I'm like, no, I'm intentionally trying to not make it popular. And at the time, Autonomy was starting to head toward less popularity, and it was about to shut down. And it eventually did shut down. At the time I'm talking 2014. When I'd read how to pitch publishing houses, they were like, do not tell them that this story has been with you for this many years and you've been working on it for this many years. You need to show them that you can write fast and write engaging stuff that appeals to them. You need to show them your successes, not that you've been like just rehashing the same story. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's not good for me. And they were like, what you're trying to do is you're trying to convince them to invest in your book, because they need to look at your book and say, we're going to have at least this amount of sales. And I looked at the number of sales that I needed to be able to promise them, and I'm like, I can't do that. Like, it wasn't even just like, it wasn't I can't achieve that. It was, I don't want that recognition. I don't want people to notice me that much because I'm too socially anxious. I don't want to be that noticed. But I want readers, but I want to hide in the background is what I want. And just like, I would be happy if I made $10 or $20, if I sold 10 books. I didn't even care really about, and I realized I don't care about making money. I wrote a story that means something to me that I want to share. I don't want it to just be written for myself. I want it to be for someone else. I found a bit of writing advice on how to succeed in self-publishing, and one of the stupid ideas this person had, I acknowledge it's a stupid idea, but it was someone had blogged this idea. If you have only one novel idea, split it in your novel into sections and publish it in pieces. That way you have enough momentum, because they were very much like, you need to publish a new work every so often. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll do that, but I still need to finish the thing. I found Wattpad, and its idea was you syndicate a chapter about a week. That's you want to do it, if you want to have following, you got to do it weekly. I kind of did it weekly for a little while, but I wasn't that on key with it. I'm just like, okay, here it is. This is, I can syndicate my chapters. The only problem is I have a tendency to write a chapter realizing I need a scene before it to prepare for the chapter that I've just written. And if I syndicate it before I finish the book, which the whole point is I want motivation to finish this book, I can't go back. Can I do that? I'm like, I don't care, I'm going to try to do this. So Wattpad was my motivation. This is 2014. Was my motivation to kick my butt and finish the stupid thing. I went on the Wattpad forums to, like, you know, here's my book. You know, I hid behind my username, Light and Darkness. Anyway, I submitted it to this Chosen by You contest. Well, there was a book of the week, and then there was a book of the month based off of the book of the weeks. I got book of the week, and I got book of the month. And she gave me a little graphic to put on my book cover for the book of the month award. I didn't get one for the book of the week. And through this, I got a little bit of a following. I took Wattpad's advice that you got to go on other stories and you got to comment on other authors' books, and that's how you gain traction. They were very much, you got to try and network with these other authors, but they and I was struggling because I was so shy. And okay, following. I had readers who stuck with the book for a whole year, who waited weeks and even a month. When I was sick for a month, waited a month for a new chapter. And were willing to continue reading and to encourage me on to finish it. So I finished it 2015. And then I worked on revising it, and I still wanted to like try to make money off of it. But at the same time, I kind of had the reward that I was going for, because I had people read my work and write me messages saying, "You've given me confidence to face my own inner demons." And the fact that I found those people, that I gave them my story, means so much to me. And so I don't, it's not about the money. It's not about needing to be this big name writer. It's about, I wrote this for someone other than just me, and they found it. Like, during 2015 and 16, I did start kind of playing with marketing on Wattpad. I was invited to, and I was given this opportunity for free to participate in a Skillshare with one of their Wattpad's more popular authors, and it was how to write for online engagement. She was kind of coaching people through it, and then she was going to give her, and you can still find it on Skillshare, and now it's on YouTube. It's it's old now, so it's like old advice. And I started competing in short fiction contests, which got me more visibility, and people, and that actually helped me network with other authors on there who would invite me, like, because they'd read my work and like, you need to get involved in this short fiction writing contest, in this short fiction writing contest. So I wrote short fiction for the Once Upon a Now contest, and then the big thing happened, where my online author friends were like, we just saw this article. We're like, TNT has just announced that they're going to do a new Tales from the Crypt with M. Night Shyamalan. I don't know if I pronounced his name right. And they're going to adapt some Wattpad fiction for the new Tales from the Crypt. Now, it didn't take off. Like, I can't remember how much money there was attached to it. But it was a few thousand. Before this contest is even made official, what we're gonna do is we're gonna write an anthology on this new Wattpad profile, and we're gonna all promote each other's work by submitting a short piece of fiction that's gonna be a chapter in this anthology book on Wattpad. So that was when I wrote Mother, which is now Ancestral. And then the contest was announced on Wattpad, and we all realized our stories have to be on our own profile. They can't be on this other profile. So but we had to prove that these stories existed before the contest. And so I had to make sure that I put the story on my profile, and I referenced it to where it had been previously published on Wattpad. All the stories were read. There were like thousands. And the top 100 was selected, and I got the notification that my short story Mother was in the top 100. That put me on the next round, which meant I had to get votes to get into the top 35. So I had to come up with a marketing strategy to get lots of votes. Some of that was learning that you don't look at the other people competing against you as the competition, as your enemy. And I learned this from the Once Upon a Now contest, that you're working together, promoting each other's work. Like you kind of take it as your job to find the good fiction, and then among the people who have found the good fiction, you keep making these lists of recommending other people's stories to each other, and we would share each other's lists, and the list kept getting longer and longer. That happened in the Once Upon a Now contest, and that happened in the TNT contest. But at the same time, I was taking a chance, and like I was reaching out to family and friends, and people whose were on YouTube that I'm like, that went to my university. I'm like, would you support this and consider voting on it? You know, with the Once Upon a Now contest of promoting my work, I quit midway. I'm like, I can't do this. So maybe I would have had a chance had I not given up like midway. But the fact that I had gone through the Once Upon a Now contest, it gave me like, I cannot give up. And so I just kept going and going and going till the end. And at one point I was frustrated because Wattpad uncategorized my story into where it was more hidden on the website. And I'm like, why are you doing this? And I'm like emailing them. I'm like, please do not uncategorize my story. It's like, it belongs in this category. And I got into the top 35. And that terrified me because now it was, the next round was to get to the top 10. And if you got to the top 10, that was the option rights. That was terrifying. I'm like, do I really want this? I'm like, well, at least the marketing part is over. I don't have to market anymore. And I'm so thankful I did not know that what I was waiting for was a phone call. The day before, or the day it was announced, I realized they were calling you. I would have been a mess had I known that. And I was so relieved that I did not get into the top 10 because I didn't want it. I wasn't ready for it. I could not have emotionally handled it. From there, Wattpad started giving me opportunities to help launch another platform that, it was a really weird idea. I don't know if it exists anymore. It was basically a fake chat where you have two characters texting each other and there's some drama going on between the texts and you're reading the story because the story's in the text. And I'm like, what sort of weird idea is this? But they gave me the opportunity and I'm like, and then they wanted to use me in promotional material. They kind of interviewed me, not officially, but I think they realized like, okay, I'm really awkward, and the video call kind of ended with like, well, we're sorry we wasted your time, which I realized was more, which I started feeling like, oh, you're sorry that I wasted your time. And then that kind of, the Wattpad promotion kind of went away, but they had featured me, and Devil's Lake by that time had gotten up to, I think it was the top 5 in the category it was in. They didn't, but I still I had people trying to, they wanted me to help launch the Radish app, and I'm like I can't, because I had another author like recommend, like they tried to recruit her. She had gone with the publishing house, and she recommended me to them. I was given the opportunity yet again to write for Radish Fiction, and I actually put Devil's Lake on Radish Fiction for a time, and that was similar to Wattpad in that it was syndicated, but you could have a freemium model where you could have another chapter that people could pay to get ahead of time, and then it would transition to free. And the idea was you would build your following through the syndication and gradually work your way up to eventually having more stories, or people had to pay for tokens in order to get to all your chapters. So you could post your story for free, you could do a freemium model, or you could have it just totally paid. They actually gave me access to an editor, and I looked at the contract, and well, actually it was different than what they said on their website, and I was like, I'm not comfortable with this, and you're not giving me the ability to delete my book off your website. Like, I have to request you delete it for me. I did, and the other thing is, I didn't like the other content they were putting on. I'm like, I don't think this fits my brand. Like, there was so much erotica on their app, and I'm like, this is not me. This is not what I write. Get me off of here. And this is definitely not where Devil's Lake belongs. I'm not accepting your editing, and I am not accepting staying on this platform. I had it on Radish, and I had it Amazon, I think at the same time. And so I didn't do the Kindle Select. I didn't have the launch I could have if I didn't have social anxiety, but I'm glad I did it. And I gradually made money. And the thing is like, I didn't invest a lot. I didn't really invest anything. I did invest in one picture for the cover. I had spent money on actually hiring a photographer and a model, which is something that most authors don't do. I was for cheap. Like, I didn't spend that much on that photo. And I edited it myself. Like, he didn't do much at all to it. Once I made enough money off the book, then I started paying for a few more marketing things and started experimenting with marketing more, with paid marketing, that is. But my philosophy was, you're not going to spend any money you haven't made. So I would always look at, what have I already made? I'm reinvesting in marketing. And it was all like kind of like practice. Submitted it to the Indies Today to get a review, and then also submitted to a contest, which I thought, I don't have a chance at the contest. I became a finalist. Okay. So then I just kind of lived my life and left the book on in the background, and I found the perfect therapist for me. Probably the one piece of advice my therapist gave me that was the best advice was, it's not your business what other people think of you. She used my shame to stop me from ruminating, because I always felt like I need to care about how I make other people feel. I need, and she's like, no, people have an obligation to set boundaries with you. And if they're going to not set boundaries with you and just freak out with you later, because the thing is, like, that's the thing is, like, I always felt that people would just tolerate and not tell me, and even lie to me about, oh, you're fine, you're not doing anything wrong, I'm not annoyed with you. And then one day, okay, I've had enough with you. I've just had it, I can't take with you, I don't want to be your friend anymore. And that was what I was terrified of. I worked with a therapist for a few years, and I still see her occasionally, but not as frequently. My anxiety's gone. So anyway, Devil's Lake comes out July 22nd of this year, the anniversary edition. I will be having a launch party at Devil's Lake on the 28th, which I will be posting videos and photos from on social media. I might have more to announce with that, but I can't announce it because it's not finalized. So, but if it's nothing, if it goes nowhere, it's not a big deal. It'll be a fun party regardless. And honestly, it'll be good regardless. So, anyway, I wish I knew how to end this, but I don't. Bye.